This protein bar has 28 grams of protein and 150 calories. That's not impressive. That's suspicious. And yet, this thing is everywhere. This is the David Protein Bar. And this video is not a review. I'm not here to rank flavors. I'm not here to yell about ingredients. And I'm definitely not here to tell you what to eat. I'm here because this bar didn't slowly climb its way to the top. It showed up fully formed. Insane macros, premium branding, and a founder who's already sold a protein bar company for $600 million, which is usually a clue. So today, I want to talk about why this exists, why it's winning, and what it says about the moment we're in right now, where optimizing numbers sometimes starts to feel like optimizing morality. And by the way, this isn't some slow burn brand story. David reportedly did over $1 million in their first week, which is either brilliant execution or a sign that we've all collectively lost our minds. Because I get why this works. I use tools too. I just think it's worth being honest about what game we're playing. Hey there, friends. I'm Jake, and this is Bottom Line, where we cut through the supplement noise with some actual science, a little humor, and some hard-earned industry experience. Been in the supplement industry on the brand side and on the manufacturing side for over a decade. I also do consulting, so if you're a brand looking for help with formulas, strategy, or just avoiding dumb mistakes, check out the link in the description. And if you're feeling generous, we'd love to have you like and subscribe here so we can stay in touch. Now, it's not just you. This thing didn't feel like it slowly worked its way up from the bottom shelf of a grocery store. It didn't crawl out of the protein bar aisle. It kind of arrived. Not like a startup, like a product that had already won, which usually means the work didn't happen here. It happened years ago. One day you hadn't heard of it. The next day, it was everywhere. On podcasts, on TikTok, in gym bags, being casually named dropped like, "Oh yeah, have you tried David?" Which is a wild sentence when you think about it. And when something shows up like that, fully packaged, fully branded, fully confident, it usually means one thing. The market was already ready for it. So the interesting question isn't, why did David succeed? It's, what had to be true about our food culture before a bar like this could even exist? And to answer that, we have to talk about protein and how it quietly went from gym thing to health thing to moral good. To understand why David works, you have to understand something important. Protein won, like the whole war. For decades, nutrition advice has basically been one long game of musical chairs. Fat is bad. No, wait, carbs are bad. Actually, sugar is bad. Processed food is bad. Seed oils are bad. Everything is bad. But protein? Protein never got canceled. It just quietly survived every food war by standing in the corner doing pull-ups on a door frame. No one has ever looked at a grilled chicken breast and said, "You're the problem." Except straight-edge vegans. And even then, respectfully. For a long time, protein was just stuff for the gym. Bodybuilders, athletes, people whose jobs involved lifting heavy things. Everyone else just needed enough so that they didn't fall apart. But over the last few years, that changed. Protein stopped being about looking jacked and started being about aging well, staying strong, and not breaking a hip later. You don't eat protein just to get ripped. You eat protein so when you're 80 years old, you can stand up off the floor without your family quietly Googling assisted living options. And once protein crossed that line from niche fitness goal to mainstream health requirement, everything else became obvious. If protein is good, then more protein is morally superior. And if more protein is better, then the most efficient protein wins. And that's where things start getting interesting. Because once protein won the macro wars, we did what humans always do. We turned it into math. Because math feels safe. It's not just, did you eat protein? It's, how efficient was your protein? Protein per calorie, calories from protein, protein density. Things your grandparents never said out loud. Things that sound less like food and more like something you'd brag about at a dinner party nobody wants to be at. And listen, I get it. Numbers feel clean. Numbers don't argue back. Numbers don't ask how you're feeling emotionally. They just sit there and say, you could have done better. And once there's a number, there's a leaderboard. And once there's a leaderboard, somewhere someone is quietly feeling superior. Not out loud, but inside. The strongest kind. And this is where David shows up at exactly the right moment. David didn't invent this obsession. They just showed up and said, cool, we'll build the final boss version. Because David isn't really selling you a protein bar. They're selling you winning the metric. High protein, low calories, clean math. A bar that says, relax, you're doing this correctly. No vibes, no ambiguity, just numbers. And when food starts talking like that, it stops being lunch. It becomes a performance review. They literally stack themselves up against Quest and Built bars on their site, and then put boiled cod at the top. Naturally. That's not marketing. That's a threat. Because if you're wondering what food actually beats David on protein per calorie, there's only one. Boiled cod. Not grilled, not seasoned, not pan-seared, boiled. Plain, wet, emotionless fish. 6 ounces of boiled cod has a higher protein to calorie ratio than David. So naturally, David sells boiled cod. Yes, on their website. When I first saw it, I thought it was a joke. It's not a joke. You can buy protein bars, or you can buy vacuum-sealed boiled fish. Same brand. And this is the most honest thing they've done. Because if protein per calorie is the only thing that matters, this is where you end up. No joy, no pleasure, just numbers and fish. And if you're watching this and thinking, why would anyone care about this? Congratulations. That means you're healthy. Okay, let's talk about the bar itself. Because whenever something has macros like this, the internet immediately assumes there's a demon involved. There isn't. The reason David can pack this much protein into this few calories comes down to one ingredient. It's called EPG, esterified propoxylated glycerol. Yes, that sounds fake. Yes, that sounds like it has a patent lawyer. But what it actually is a modified fat. It behaves like fat in your mouth, as far as texture and richness. But your body absorbs far fewer calories from it. That's it. It's not radioactive. It's not a loophole. It's not a conspiracy. It's food engineering, which is either fascinating or terrifying, depending on how much you trust adults. And like most food engineering, it's not a miracle, and it's not evil. It's a hack. And humans love hacks. EPG is FDA approved. It's been around for years. And yes, if you eat too many of these, your digestive system will be filing a formal complaint, which again is true of most things. David even says, hey, maybe don't eat 5 of these in one sitting, which feels like solid life advice in general. So for me, this isn't about whether the bar is good or bad. It works, it tastes fine, and it does exactly what it claims to do. The interesting part isn't what they used, it's what they did next. The founder here is Peter Rahal, the same guy who started RX Bar and sold it to Kellogg's. So this is not his first rodeo. This is his second lap. David also brought in Peter Attia as Chief Science Officer, which is a very efficient way of saying, we're not here to mess around. This isn't a startup learning the rules. This is someone who already knows where the bodies are buried and bought the shovel. And here's where things get interesting. Because the same ingredient that makes David work also became their biggest strategic advantage. EPG is produced by a single supplier, and earlier this year, David acquired that supplier. And shortly after that, other brands that had been using EPG suddenly lost access to it. Companies like Defiant Foods, Own Your Hunger, and Lighten Up Foods. Not direct competitors, just smaller brands that had built products around this one ingredient. And understandably, they were furious. If you spent years building a product around one ingredient and that ingredient disappears overnight, that's devastating to a business. I'd be pissed too. But here's the uncomfortable part. This is exactly what experienced operators do. If your entire product depends on one thing, and that thing is scarce, you either control it or someone else eventually does. And because Peter had already been through one massive exit, he knows where companies die. And it's usually dependency. So, is this move aggressive? Absolutely. Is it legal? Yes. Does it feel great if you're on the other side of it? Definitely not. But it's not random. It's not reckless. It's protection. And this is where David stops being just a food company and starts behaving more like a tech company. So where I'm landing on all of this, I think David is an incredibly smart product. It's well engineered. It's incredibly well branded. And it's perfectly timed. And honestly, I think the bars are good. But the reason I find this whole thing interesting isn't really the bar. It's what the bar represents. We're living in a moment where health has become measurable in very specific ways. Protein grams, calories, ratios, efficiency, and a lot of that is genuinely helpful. People caring about protein, strength, muscle, aging well, that's a good thing. But somewhere along the way, those numbers stopped being tools and started feeling like character references. Proof that you're disciplined, that you're optimized, that you're doing it right. And once food starts doing that, it stops being food. It becomes identity. And David didn't create that mindset. They just read it perfectly. They saw where the culture was going, built the cleanest version of the product it was asking for, and executed ruthlessly. That's not evil. That's not sinister. That's business. For me, the reminder here is just this. Optimization is a tool. It's not a personality. And it's definitely not morality. If it's in your LinkedIn bio, we need to have a chat. I use tools too. I just try not to confuse winning the spreadsheet with actually being healthy. And I think David is one of the best examples we have right now of what happens when a company builds exactly what the market wants, even if that market is a little intense and also a little unsettling, depending on how seriously you take your protein bar. Anyway, that's protein in 2025. We'll see what we optimize next. Whatever that trend is, I'll be here talking about it. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe on my channel so we can navigate it together. Thanks for checking out Bottom Line. I'll see you next time.